boys and girls. I wanted to take some time to go over our story this week. If you have your blue reading book, you can open up to page 162 and 163. This is Peter's chair. If you don't have your book, go ahead and pause the video and you can go get it and then start back up when you've had your book opened up to page 162, 163. So this story is called Peter's Chair by Ezra Jack Keats. Some of you have already read this because I have this book in my collection and I know that some of you read it for a book in a bag. So this is going to be a repeat of a book that you've already read for some of you. If you do a little picture walk, look through the pages of the story, you will notice that everything in this story could really happen, okay? But it didn't really happen. So it is fiction. This story is made up. It has made up characters. But you'll notice here, next to genre, it says realistic fiction. That means even though it's made up, it could really happen. I saw a video once about the author. His name is Ezra Jack Keats. And he wrote this story, Peter's Chair. That's a picture of Ezra Jack Keats. He lives in New York City, or lived in New York City, and he saw a boy on the street that looked really cool, and he thought he was interesting, and he decided to make up all these stories about just a stranger he saw on the street. And he decided to name him Peter. So you'll notice if you go to the library, you can find books by Ezra Jack Keats, and a lot of them are about Peter. So we're going to read this week, Peter's Chair. The theme of a lot of these stories in this book are treasures and things that we treasure. This question of the week says, what treasures can we share at home? The treasure in this story is kind of similar to, I don't know if you remember at the beginning when we read about Mama's birthday present, and you notice that in that story, what she treasured wasn't a birthday present. What she really treasured were all the people, her family and friends that came to celebrate with her at her party. It's similar to that in this story. The things that Peter treasures in this story, Peter's Chair, they're not really special gifts or anything fancy. He treasures things that are important to him. And you'll kind of learn that as we read Peter's Chair. So go ahead and follow along with me today, and then later in this week you can go ahead and practice reading this a couple times on your own. So Peter's Chair by Ezra Jack Keats. Peter stretched as high as he could. There, his tall building was finished. Crash, down it came. Shh, called his mother. You'll have to play more quietly. Remember, we have a new baby in the house. So Peter has a brand new sister. He's got to be quiet when he plays. Peter looked into his sister Susie's room. His mother was fussing around the cradle. That's my cradle, he thought, and they painted it pink. So he's very frustrated. He had his own cradle, which is another fancy word for crib, and they painted it pink. Hi, Peter, said his father. Would you like to help paint sister's high chair? It's my high chair, whispered Peter. And look what they're doing. They're taking all of his stuff and painting it pink. He saw his crib and muttered, my crib, it's painted pink too. Not far away stood his old chair. They didn't paint that yet, Peter shouted. He picked it up and ran to his room. So he's thinking, I'm going to get away with this before they paint that thing too. He really treasures this chair right now. Let's run away, Willie, he said. Peter filled a shopping bag with cookies and dog biscuits. We'll take my blue chair, my toy crocodile, and the picture of me when I was a baby. Willie got his bone. So that's all he decided to take with him when he ran away. They went outside and stood in front of his house. This is a good place, said Peter. He arranged his things very nicely and decided to sit in his chair for a while. So here he has his picture of him when he was a baby, his toy crocodile, and there's his chair. So he went to sit down in his chair and look what happened. But he couldn't fit in the chair. He was too big. His mother came to the window and called, "Won't you come back to us, Peter dear? We have something very special for lunch." Peter and Willie made believe they didn't hear, but Peter got an idea. Soon his mother saw signs that Peter was home. "That rascal is hiding behind the curtain," she said happily. So you can see there's Peter's shoes behind the curtain. So Mother thinks that he's hiding behind the curtain. She moved the curtain away, but he wasn't there. "Here I am," shouted Peter. So she tricked him. Or he tricked Mom. He was deciding, you know what, I'm not going to run away. I'm going to come back and trick my mom. It's very silly. Peter sat in a grown-up chair. His father sat next to him. "Daddy," Peter said, "let's paint the little chair pink for Susie." So he's realizing, you know what, I don't even fit in that chair anymore. And I can be a big boy and sit in an adult chair next to Mom and Dad. And now he's thinking, you know what, maybe I can just share my things with my sister. And they did. And that's the end. So if you want to check out some other stories about Peter, if you go to YouTube and you type in Ezra Jack Keats, you'll find all kinds of stories. Some have Peter, some have other characters that Peter becomes friends with. One that you probably have read before is The Snowy Day. That's the one where Peter goes outside and he plays in the snow and he puts a snowball in his pocket, and then he's confused on why the snowball's not there later when he goes to look for it. I think we've read that story before. That's Ezra Jack Keats too. He wrote that story. Actually, yeah, you can see the picture of it right here, The Snowy Day. So take some time to practice reading this story this week. You're going to answer these questions here later in the week. And again, try to check out some stories by Ezra Jack Keats. I think you'll like them. So keep working hard, keep doing your best, and we'll hope to see you soon.